what we're going to do on the 10th of March at a panel event, which the museum is hosting, is we're going to launch the online exhibition. So rather than having people wait for another whole year, they can access the information now while they're waiting. The panel event is called What Does It Mean to Belong? And it's next Wednesday on the 10th of March at 7:30. That's tomorrow. Tickets are £5. They can be purchased on the museum's website. And we're really excited about the event. It's going to be introduced by Her Majesty's Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, Mr. Robert Voss, and our lovely MP, Daisy Cooper. And I'm going to chair it. And then there are three panellists who are also contributors. They're going to tell their stories too. And their stories sort of fit into the themes of the exhibition, but they also reflect key moments in Jewish history. And we're going to be looking at how the stories have shaped our lives and explore the idea of belonging to the lovely St Albans community, which we know is home to so many different cultural groups.
That sounds fascinating. So belonging to the St Albans community and also presumably to the synagogue and the Jewish community here, that's going to be an interesting topic of conversation, is it? What sort of things are you expecting to come out of that panel discussion?
Well, I think we will talk about our own stories, mine included, but we'll also think a bit about what makes community. We'll look at the way our ideas have been influenced, I think, by our own backgrounds, how we feel about migrants, how some of us volunteer with refugees. It's a bit about sort of community action to make sure we're sort of embedded in the community, I suppose, but while keeping our traditions.
Tell us a little bit about your family story then, just as an example of the kind of thing that might come up in the panel.
Okay, so my story is one of the 18, and there's some very sort of powerful stories in there. My own case, my mother came to England on the Kinder transport when she was 10. Her life was saved by a friend of my grandmother's, who my grandmother had met in Switzerland, actually, in 1917, and they'd kept in touch. And when things got difficult in Germany, this lady, Mary Caro, arranged for my grandmother to come out of Germany along with my mother and her twin brother and my aunt. And there is a famous picture, which you'll see in the exhibition, of my mother arriving at Liverpool Street Station. And wow. But my grandfather unfortunately perished in Auschwitz because he wasn't able to get out. So that's just one of the stories. But I suppose there is an idea of the sort of legacy that we do need to tell the story so people don't. Unfortunately, they do repeat the mistakes of the past, don't they? But to try and counteract racism. I think the idea is that the more people know about other sort of groups, cultural groups, the more they understand them. So that's sort of one of the aims of the exhibition as well. Yeah,
we do sometimes make repeated mistakes, but the more we're reminded of them, perhaps the less it's likely that they'll happen. So this panel event should be helpful in that respect too, but also very interesting individual stories. So tell us again how we can book to get on the panel event tomorrow evening.
Yes, so if you just Google what does it mean to belong, St Albans Museums, you'll see the site there.
And then you can book your ticket for the virtual event.
£5, yes, yeah. And I can tell you a bit more about what visitors can expect to find in the exhibition as well, if you like.
Yes. So let's talk a bit about the online exhibition then. When will that open and what will it contain?
So it's really a mirror image of the in-person exhibition. It will open. We are launching it actually at the panel event, but and the site will be live from Wednesday. But I can tell you now, it's arrivingbelonging.com. And in the exhibition, there's a lovely photography wall. You'll be able to sort of virtually meet the community members who have got roots from around the world, and they're holding the objects or photographs that are being used to illustrate their stories. And then we picked on these sort of quite universal themes. All of the stories fit into one of the themes, and the themes are sanctuary, courage, compassion, setting down roots, work and community. The stories also reflect on moments in Jewish history. There's a couple of maps in the exhibition. One shows where all the stories have come from. One shows Jewish businesses in St Albans between the 1930s and 1980s. And then there's a timeline which shows how Jewish life in St Albans goes back a long way. Aaron of Lincoln apparently lent money for the building of the Abbey. And then all the Jews, you probably know, were expelled from England in 1290. And it wasn't until several hundred years later, when Cromwell allowed Jews back into the country, that they formed communities again. And one of our contributors can trace our ancestors right back to one of the earliest settlers.
That's going to be very interesting. So that's arrivingbelonging.com, is that right?
It
is the
is,
online
it is,
exhibition.
yes.
And then next year, hopefully, people will be able to see the exhibition at the St Albans Museum and Gallery, is that right?
Keepers Galleries, that's right. There are also sort of connections with Fleetville. Sorry to keep you long, but there was a raincoat factory in Fleetville in Sutton Road, I don't know if you know, called Nicholson's.
Yes,
and
yes.
We do know from census records that there were Jewish families, some who had come from Russia fleeing Russian sort of pogroms at the turn of the century, living in the roads all around that area. And that was the beginning of the Jewish community sort of from the last century. And then they went on to establish the United Synagogue and then later Sam's.
That's fascinating. A part of St Albans history that certainly I didn't know anything about until we started speaking, to be honest, Helen. So it's going to be fantastic for people to be able to get to see some more of that and start to understand the history. Now, if there's other communities that want to do this kind of thing, how difficult did you find it to do, and is there support out there for people?
Well, actually, we're really keen to sort of share the mapping project we did was very easy. And we're very happy to help any other communities who'd like to put their stories together in the way that we did. So they could just contact, we have an email address called arrivingbelonging@e-sams.org.
So that's arrivingbelonging@e-sams.org, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we feel it's really important to sort of share these stories and help us understand each other better. So we'd be really happy to help any other community that would like to sort of map their routes.
That's brilliant. That's a really great idea, and I'm sure there are some other communities who would like to delve into their history and map things out a bit. So thank you for making that offer, Helen. Well, so the event is tomorrow night at 7:30. It's an online event. You can get your ticket at the St Albans Museums and Gallery website. Just Google what does it mean to belong. What does it mean to belong at St Albans, and you can find your ticket there. Helen, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for letting me on. It was really nice to talk to you. Thank you.
That's a great initiative. That's Helen Singer. Helen is from the St Albans Masorti Synagogue.